So first we will look at the Vedic corpus, which means we are talking about the Veda, Upaveda and the Vedanga. That is the Vedic corpus, so to speak. So I'm going to touch only a few portions of that, not all of them. So before we do that, I want to introduce you to a little bit of some principles of Vedic living we must understand. Only then we will make sense of the Vedas. So in the Vedic times, Agni was very central to their living, and Yajna was very central. The entire Vedic thing can be understood only when we are able to understand Yajna, which plays a very central role. So therefore, let us try to understand this. So the purpose of human life is to realize and know the absolute truth. That is the first principle of Vedic living. And as I told you, Yajna was very central role in Vedic living. Everything requires Yajna, and it is part and parcel of people's life. So Yajna was central role in Vedic living. And if you look at the Vedic repository, it has you can look at, read, and then classify them into 3 compartments. One is the Karma Kanda, where there is all about how to do, if you remember, Dvido Vedokto Dharmaha Pravritti Lakshano Nivritti Lakshanascha Jakataha Sthiti Karanam. I mentioned that Pravritti Lakshana, Veda, the Dharma Veda for Pravritti Lakshana, that talks about Karma Kanda, how we have to do many things, in which Yajna will be a very important thing. Then Upasana Kanda, at some stage we need to meditate, we need to contemplate, we need to do a little tapas. That's called Upasana. So some part of the Vedic repository will emphasize more on the Upasana Kanda. Then you have the Jnana Kanda, which is the realization of oneself, the ultimate realization of oneself. So the whole Vedic living actually put us in a certain way, proposed a certain mechanism in which we go through these 3 stages of evolution that every individual must go through. That seems to be their idea. Now, I want you to understand a little bit about this Yajna. Only then a lot of this Vedic literature can make sense. So let us look at the Yajna. There is a Yajamana and a Yajamana Patni, who is the Karta, who is going to do the Yajna. So you have the Vedi is also there, the altar is there. Now, in order to do this Yajna, actually 18 people are involved. So 2 people I have already explained here, Yajamana and Yajamana Patni. They are the Karta. Then we have what is called Hotrugana, a group of 4 people with a leader called Hota, and he has 3 assistants for him. So let's say Hotrugana, 4 of them. Then there is another group called Advaryugana, 4 of them. Again, there is a leader, let us say Advaryu, and there are Upadvaryus, let us say, there are assistants for him. So that make a team of 4. Then you have Udgatragana, again 4 of them. There is a Udgata and 3 assistants. Okay, and there is a Brahmagana. There is a Brahma and 3 assistants for him. Now, what is happening? These 4 people are coming from 4 Vedas actually. The Hotragana comes from Rigveda. The Hota is from Rigveda. The Advaryu and his team comes from Yajurveda. They are the exponents of Yajurveda. The Udgatragana, the Udgata and his assistants, come from Samaveda. And the Brahmagana comes from Atharvaveda. Now, how does it work? Now, what happens is, the Yajna is offered to a deity, Indra, Prajapati, Soma, whatever. So what will happen is this Hota, who is from Rigveda, he will invoke the deities in the altar first. And Agni is so important. That's why the first mantra in Rigveda is Agnimi ile purohitam yajnasya devam ritvijam hota aram ratna datamam Agnim ile. So Agni is very important. That's the first mantra of Rigveda. So it are all hymns. So they invoke the deities. The deities are invoked by the Rigvedis. Then the Yajurvedis, Advaryu, they actually perform the Agnya. They know the know-how of the Agnya. So Yajurveda mantras are all, if you see, it is all about mantras to be used for the Agnya. And I will come little more about it a little later. For the moment, we'll keep it here. Then you have, after the Agnya is done, then the Samavedis actually pray the praise of the Lord invoked on the altar by Samagana. So that is the Udgata. So that is that group. Now what is this Brahmagana? Brahmagana is actually the main supervisor. He must be in the know of all the three. Only then he will be in a position to actually make sure he is the supervisor sort of things, and something, and every Gana takes permission from him, and then if there is a deviation, they take his recommendation as to what to do. And so it is like a project management. You see very nice project management here. Actually, I should quote this mantra from Taittiriya Aranyaka. It comes in Taittiriya Upanishad actually. Omiti Brahma, Omiti Dagam Sarvam, Omit Yetadanukriti Hasmava Apyo Shavayetya Shavayanti, Omiti Samani Gayanti, Ogum Shomiti Shastrani Shagum Santi, Omityadvaryur Pratigaram Pratigranati, Omiti Brahma Prasauti, Omityagnihotramanujanati. You will find here all the names. Brahma will be there, Advaryu will be there, all of them are there. So this mantra actually describes this, that this is how it happens. So I want you to understand that the Veda has these four complementary roles for the four Vedas, and we need to understand all this. Keep this in mind, and then we will move on and try to understand what is contained in the Vedas. Now, if you look at the Vedic corpus, one is Rigveda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, Atharvaveda. We'll leave it, that everybody knows. The Veda actually has four sort of variety of the content can be segregated into four. One is called Samhita, which are the main mantras. So Yajurveda also will have Samhita, Rigveda Samhita. Rigveda Samhita are the most celebrated ones. They are the, in fact, Yajurveda and Samaveda, Atharvaveda draw many of the mantras only from Rigveda. So Rigveda is the Adi, that is the primordial and starting, Rigveda Samhita. So Samhita. Then you have something called Brahmana, something called Aranyaka and Upanishad. So let's see what these things are. So the main portion of each Veda is actually the Samhita. Why? Because that consists of these main mantras, certain mantras which are presented. All of the Samhitas are in the metrical form. They are in Padyam, in poetic metrical form. Chandas, there is a certain Chandas in which you have to do it. Then Brahmanas. Brahmanas are not this Brahmin by, this caste name. This is different. Brahmanas mean it actually has a collection of knowledge which are required for the rituals. What kind of, it has described a lot of rituals, what kind of rituals are to be done, how it has to be done. By sheer volume, it is of the large repository. It's in some ways, Brahmanas are a little technical material. It says, it first talks about what kind of sacrifices are to be done. What are all the rites to be done as part of these sacrifices? What are some of the procedural things? What kind of mantras must be recited at an appropriate time? All those details. It's a technical material. I'll give you one example. Many of you possibly, or some of you might know this Arna Prashna, Surya Namaskara, which is part of Taittiriya Brahmana. So there is this mantra. Janudagnim Uttaravedim Katva Apam Purayitva Gulpadagnam Pushkara Parnai Pushkara Tandai Pushkaraischa Saggastirya. This is actually a set of instructions. He says Janudagnim Uttaravedim Katva. How to do that, Vedi, that altar, Uttaravedi, how do you do? It is describing the procedure. It says create a pit, then apam purayitva gulpadagnam, up to the knee level, fill the water. Then pushkara parnaihi, pushkara dandaihi, pushkaraischa saggastirya. fill it with lotus stem, flowers, and the leaves. So like this, Brahmanas have quite a few specific details of what sacrifices to be done, how it has to be done, who should do, who should be called, and who should be seated here. What is the first mantra to say? Should this person have food before coming here? Should he have a vapana before doing? So many things are there. So in a way, Brahmanas are a little technical material, and it's also voluminous because it's a matter of detail which are to be explained. Then you have Aranyakas. As you know, Aranyaka is the word, comes from Aranyaka, Taddita of Aranyaka. The Taddita pada is Aranyaka, means those who are forest dwellers. In other words, when people want to, rest in the forest, they have reached the stage of life. So now they need to do, this is the Upasana Kanda of Veda. Because the mantras are very similar to Brahmanas, but then it actually gives an opportunity for doing upasana. The mantra which I just now recited, Om iti Brahma, Om iti idagam sarvam, Om iti etadanuhritiha smava apyesha vayetya shavayanti, Om iti samani gayanti. That mantra is available in Taittiriya Upanishad. It is part of Taittiriya Aranyaka, which is for upasana on Om. So the same mantra in Brahmana is used for a different reason, or it is viewed in a different way from a technical angle and so on. Many of those mantras in Aranyaka, they look similar, but they are used for philosophical approach about the Agnya. So the Agnya is now looked at a little more philosophically. So it is upasana is done. So that is called Aranyaka. Then you have Upanishads, which are the loftiest thoughts of the Vedic seers, the grandest, the most beautiful thoughts of the seers, philosophical treatises, and that is for the ultimate sort of liberation. So Brahmanas are for Karma Kanda, Aranyakas are for Upasana Kanda, and Upanishads are for actually Jnana Kanda. That's how the whole thing is organized. So this is a way to understand the Vedic literature from this kind of. So every Veda, Rigveda will have all the four, Yajurveda will have all the four, Samaveda will have all the four, and Atharvaveda will have all the four. So this is for all the Vedas. So let us quickly look at a table. Before that, I will talk about Rigveda Samhita. This is the most important and celebrated. Therefore, let me spend a little time talking about this. So you have Rigveda has the entire Rigveda Samhita has 10,552 mantras. Okay. Now this is the way the mantras are organized. Now the first level of organization is called mandala. You can imagine like a book, a collection of, let's say, mantras of the next two. So it's a book. So there are 10 books. First mandala, second mandala, third mandala, up to 10th mandala. Now each mandala has certain anuvakas. You can think of it as subsections sort of thing. In all, there are 85 anuvakas spread on the 10 mandalas. Okay, and there are 1028 suktas. See, sukta, su uktam, samyak uktam is su uktam, suktam. Suktas are the praise of the deities. So this is what the Rigvedis used to invoke the Lord. This is the same mantra in certain places which the Yajurveda uses by saying swaha after it, by giving the sacrifice, whatever padartha that we have to give and so on. So there are 1028 suktas. Very beautiful suktas are there in Rigveda, which covers a vast variety of ideas. You have Nasadiya Sukta. Nasadasit, Tadanim, Sadasit, like that. There is one Nasadiya Sukta, which people are talking about it as origin of universe. Some Westerners are, trying to write like that. There's a Jnana Sukta, there is a Shraddha Sukta, there is Agni Sukta. You have the Pavamana Pancha Sukta, which is in the 9th mandala. Beautiful suktas are there in Rigveda. Now, So this 10,000, so as I told you, this 1028 suktas, which is packed into 85 anuvakas, the 85 anuvakas packed into 10 books, they contain these 10,552 mantras. A mantra in Rigveda is called Rik. A mantra in Yajurveda is called Yajus. A mantra in Samaveda is called Sama. And a mantra in Atharvaveda is called Atharva. So that's a word we have to use. As I told you, mantras always follow a meter. Chandas. Gayatri, Ushnik, Anushtup, Brigati, Pankti, Trishtup, Jagatyas, Chandamsi. We say that. There are these 7 chandas. Right? So Gayatri is the most frequent. Gayatri and Anushtup chandas are the most frequently used chandas. Anyway, it follows a meter. And these are the mantras which are revealed to a rishi. As much as I told you, Newton was constantly contemplating. Finally, the force of gravity revealed itself to Newton. In the same way, the mantras are already there, and by deep contemplation, much more, thinking and all that, the rishis, these mantras got revealed. So they were called mantra drishtaraha. They are the seers. That's why the word seers come. The rishis are called seers because they saw the mantra as much as Newton saw the force of gravity for himself. That's an equivalent modern example I can use to actually explain that to you. So this is the way these Rigveda, all these Vedic mantras are there. There are more than about 400 rishis are mentioned. And there are 25 women rishis. So it is not that ladies were not reading. All those ideas are all last 200, 300 years, things. There are a lot of rishis. You have in Yagnavalkya's wife, Maitreyi, you will find her in several of the things. So there are women rishis also. And if you look at a Rigveda mantra, you take a sukta, what you will find is the mantra will have the following. It will say, what is the devata? So that is the next thing. It will say, what is the devata? So Agnimi, Ile, Purohitam, that sukta is for Agni. So to what devata that mantra is, what meter it follows, and which rishi to whom it was revealed. And the rishis are identified by 2 names. For example, Vishwamitra Gatin. That's the name for Vishwamitra. Vishwamitra Gatin. So, Bharadwaja, like that. There are, two names. That's a convention used. If you look at a Rigveda Samhita, you'll actually see these kinds of things. So, in a sukta, there can be multiple meters. There can be multiple devatas also. All those are possible. In fact, marriage ceremony is there. In fact, Rigveda has a rich repository of so many ideas which are there in these 1028 suktas. That's why it is the most celebrated piece of knowledge people are trying to understand and so on. So this is how the Rigveda Samhita is. The other Samhitas are all similarly organized, but I took Rigveda to sort of give you a little sense of it. So this gives a good summary of what we can put the entire Vedic repository into a small little table. So Rigveda, as I told you, has 10,552 mantras. There are 21 shakas. See, shaka, you can understand shaka as a school. You have in management literature, if I take, there is we say that there is a Harvard school of thought as opposed to a Sloan school of thought or a Stanford school of thought. They are little different in terms of how they approach the same idea. There are slight philosophical differences and all that. In the same way, there were great rishis who had disciples with them, and they propagated their the Veda through them. This is called a shaka branch. So Rigveda had 21 shakas, but only 5 are available now. In terms of Aranyakas, you have Aitareya and Sankhya Tabana are the Aranyakas in related to Rigveda. Aitareya and Kaushitaki are the Brahmanas for Rigveda. Major Upanishads are again Aitareya Upanishad, and Kaushitaki Upanishad are the major Upanishads. In the same way, Yajurveda, if you look at Taittiriya, Yajurveda has two, Krishna and Shukla. You know, the first part was called Krishna Yajurveda. Then Yajnavalkya, who learned from his uncle, there is a story. So the uncle was very, sort of angry with him because of a certain episode. So he said, you forget all the mantras I told you, and then, you just give away all the mantras and so on. Then Yajnavalkya went and did tapas to Surya, and like that, the mythological stories are there. Anyway, so Yajnavalkya's branch is Shukla Yajurveda, which is later to Krishna Yajurveda. So Vajasaneyi and Taittiriya, these are the two branches of Yajurveda itself because of this story. Krishna Yajurveda had 85 shakas, only 4 are there, mostly in South India. Shukla Yajurveda is, you find it in North India. 17 shakas, only 2 are available. Taittiriya Aranyaka is, and the Brihadaranya Aranyaka are the 2 important Aranyakas. They are also the important Upanishads also. Then Taittiriya Brahmana and Shatapatha Brahmana. Shatapatha Brahmana is very famous. They're all very important. And again, you have very important Upanishads. Kathopanishad, Taittiriya Upanishad, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, Ishavasya Upanishad. These are all part of Yajurveda. Samaveda has 1549 mantras, but only 75 are unique. In fact, in another way, if you count it, is 1875, whichever way. They are all borrowed straight from Rigveda. Why? Because the same deities who are invoked in the Rigveda are to be sung with beautiful songs. So that's why it didn't really find anything new. It used the Rigveda mantras. But look at here, from 1000 shakas of Samaveda, we have only 3. And that is also getting extinct. Samagana is so beautiful, but we are losing it. There are only 3 shakas available now. There are some people who are trying to record the whole thing and keep it for prosperity. You have, Talavakara or Jaimini Aranyaka. Brahmanas are very good in Samaveda. Tandiya Brahmana, Panchavimshati Brahmana, Saptavimshati Brahmana. Beautiful Brahmanas are there in Samaveda. Of course, the famous Chandogya Upanishad and Kena Upanishad are part of Samaveda. And Atharvaveda has 6,000 and odd mantras. The 12th Kanda, I think there are 12 Kandas, I think. The 12th Kanda is heavily borrowed from the Rigveda. But the Atharvaveda Veda has some beautiful application-oriented mantras. I will show you one table, just to give you a little sense of it. 9 shakas, only 2 are available. No Aranyakas are available. Gopata Brahmana is the only Brahmana available. And Prashna Upanishad, Mundaka Upanishad, and Mandukya Upanishad, beautiful Upanishad. These Dasha Upanishads are distributed here. So this gives you a sense of what is the knowledge repository that you have in the Vedic lore. If you go to Atharvaveda, for example, the entire Atharvaveda can be looked at like this, on these themes. The ideas can be thematically classified like this. You have Vaishajyani. In fact, lot of medicine. Atharvaveda has quite a few. Charaka Samhita is supposed to have been, sort of there. Vaishajyani. Then Ayushyani, mantras for longer life. Paishtikani, mantras for plowing the field, house construction, commercial transactions, and all these. Prayaschitani mantras. Then Stri Karmani, mantras exclusively relate to the life of woman and love, marriage, love, child welfare, etc., etc. Raja Karmani, there is a complete cabinet. All those are so beautifully described there. All positions, minister, economic affairs, defense, everything is there. Raja Karmani. Then Brahmanyani, philosophical thoughts. All those are also part of Atharvaveda because there are Upanishads and the Aranyakas there and so on. So this is how Atharvaveda has a lot of applications which are being put to use today. I thought I wanted to show those also to you.